Okay, I'm Seth Adler. If you haven't seen me or heard my voice yet, I am the host of the B2B IQ podcast network, which includes the AI and Intelligent Automation Network, of which I'm the editor-in-chief as well. But the other podcasts are PEX Network and CX Network, and we've got a couple of others on there as well, including the Shared Services and Outsourcing Network.
My favorite one.
There you go. And there's Barbara Hodge, who is the editor-in-chief of the Shared Services and Outsourcing Network. Barbara, thank you for joining me today.
Well, Seth, this is such a nice idea. I love it. On a Friday, it could be nothing nicer to do than talk to you.
There you go. Podcast land knows no time, as you well know. It happens to be Friday when we're speaking. When other folks see this, it's a day of their choosing.
Yes.
But speaking of today and tomorrow and yesterday, you and I, in our last in-person conversation, realized that whatever day it is, you and I consistently are talking about tomorrow today.
Sure. What's coming at us?
Yeah. And so we figured, hey, let's maybe record a conversation, see how that goes. What are we talking about in terms of tomorrow today? And so I guess that's the first big question. You know, as it is today, it's always today. It's always yesterday, and it's always tomorrow. But that's a different point.
It's a philosophical question, right?
Indeed. But today's version of today, regarding tomorrow, what are you thinking about? What have you most recently written about?
Yeah, so I feel like the one thing we cannot stop thinking about is whether robots or how robots are going to affect our life, right? And I think, you know, what's so amazing, Seth, is what you and I do day in and day out is really at the bleeding edge of what some people might describe as technology. And what I see in my phone, I cannot get away from, and I love the fact that the technology kind of knows what I want to do, right? We do a search, we watch videos, these are such basic questions, but even if I'm out somewhere and I look at my phone, it tells me how far it would be to get home. I don't want to go home, but you know, it's thinking for me. Personally, I don't find it offensive. So what I'm constantly aware of, and therefore have to think about is, how is technology or automation going to affect everything? And the great thing is it's not just work, it's not just accounts payable or recruitment, which is what we should be thinking about or what I should be thinking, but it's really how our life outside work too is being affected. So what are you thinking about?
Well, you're talking about predicted outcomes, a machine predicting a human's outcomes.
There we go, the AI expert putting the technology, the words to my thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, the nomenclature, right? The jargon, if you will. But, you know, that is something that we are grappling with. The fact that we like to think that humans are in charge of technology, and we certainly are, at least to this point. But we've got machines that are predicting our own outcomes. So that's fantastic. What can that mean for business? That's what you and I kind of talk and write about every day. Yeah. We're bringing up also what effect that can have on society as well.
Well, you know, one conversation I had yesterday with someone who spends his life in technology is about data. And here's an interesting statistic. I haven't looked up the source, but PwC apparently have done a survey in which they discovered that when we talk about data management, data cleaning, right? We're all right now that we've talked about automation. Now we're suddenly going, what feeds into automation? Data. Where do we get the data from? Does it work? Is it structured, unstructured, semi-structured? Who can help us to get it in the right thing? So what he told me was that on average, I suppose, 75% of the time that we say is being allocated to data management is actually data cleaning. Sorry, data analytics. We're talking about data analytics. Only a quarter of that time is actually spent on real analytics. 3/4 of the time is actually spent on getting the data into order. So now the thinking is, how do you get rid of that 3/4 of the time that's wasted? And how do you put 100% of your smart people's time into analytics? So that's something which everyone's going to have to start thinking about.
Yeah, that is, it lines up with obviously with conversations that I have as well, with the fact that it doesn't matter what you're doing with technology. If the data that you're putting in isn't going to matter for your future digitally transformed enterprise. And
Exactly.
so what data do you have that actually does matter? So if you're spending time cleaning all of your historical data,
Yeah.
is that time well spent? Probably not.
Yeah.
Have you stopped and, have you thought about where your enterprise is going, what your customers are going to want from you, and
Yeah.
what data is it that you need in that reality as
Exactly.
opposed to this reality?
But you know what's interesting too is we've all heard about OCR over the last few years, right? To me, in the early days, which early days are just a couple of minutes ago, OCR was the solution to getting a PDF document or paper. Well, it turns out zero, the number zero, I'm getting my Americanisms and my Englishisms confused, but the digit zero and the capital O are very hard to distinguish if you're doing pixel-based scanning. So
If you're a
now,
machine,
if
if
you're
you're a machine, those two things are different,
machines
difficult.
can do it differently. I mean, you're right, but machines can, through something called machine vision,
Well, there you go.
you can actually, from a PDF, extract the data at source. I am a very visual person. I'm struggling to follow the visual, language of that, or the track. But that's certainly a solution. The other interesting thing is, so my mind right now is all about AP automation and e-invoicing, because I'm working on a report that we'll publish in a few weeks online on that. But
And
the other
you're talking about, let me just dive in. You're talking about really the difference between OCR, which doesn't do that so well, and computer vision, which does this much better.
That's exactly it. And we're talking about streamlining, really. And so the idea is to get straight at the data. Interestingly, and this gets down to a very granular level, but this is how I spend my days. Interestingly, a lot of suppliers can already send their documents in an electronic format that could be read by machine vision. But this is the communication that's missing. They're not, and most companies are therefore just relying on OCR. So there are opportunities to kind of, we're all at an advanced stage, and often we just need to say, where are you at right now? Could we jump up a level? Could we speed things up? We're all trying to do things faster, right, Seth, tomorrow?
Amen.
I mean, don't you feel like that's everything we're doing is in aid of doing things faster? For what? I'd like to know.
Well, that's the therein lies the value, is for what. And if you are not working on for what, then you're just spinning your tail. You are just spending money on technology for no reason. If you're getting quicker at what you do,
Yeah.
and you don't know why you're doing what you do, that is why RPA's implementations fail, because we don't know where we're going.
Well, and then you have some really extraordinary individuals and companies, a lot of the talent management side to a large extent. And they are thinking about where are we going with people, and what kind of people do we need, and what do we want them to do, and where do we want them to do it. That kind of spins out of control, and that I find really exciting. And I'm sorry that I'm not there at the beginning of that stage, because where I started wasn't nearly, the opportunities were slower. When and you're younger than I am, but the opportunities when I started at work we didn't feel they were exploding at such an exponential rate. For sure, if you didn't like a job, you still stuck it for 4.5 years, as I did. And then you thought, maybe I could try something different.
Yeah. Just to maybe put myself on your timeline, when I first came into the workforce, we had this new thing that the company was trying out called email. We weren't sure how it was going to go. So, turned into the...
We're down this path forever. And maybe that's another Tomorrow Today session.
Exactly. We'll go down that rabbit hole another time. But I feel like we just here talked about predicted outcomes. We talked about OCR versus computer vision. And we talked about the vision for an enterprise. You know,
Yeah.
do you know where you're going?
Yeah.
And some folks certainly do. Some folks are working on that with the carbon-based workforce that they have, the humans, and infusing the digital workforce into that. And then some folks still don't, though, right?
But
You know?
I mean, for us, I think in our time now, Amazon is always our kind of uh, litmus test, right? Look what they're doing. So maybe they're a bit bumpy right now, but really, Amazon, I feel, has been born into. I mean, they're not that young. I remember when they first started selling books online. Why? Why would you do that? Why would anyone buy a book online? But I feel like now I look to them for what's coming next. I don't do Facebook. I don't do a lot of the social media. But I look at Amazon and I feel like there's a company that is, and Google, we should put into that too. But there's a company that's thinking of, however, whatever we're doing, let's do it faster, right? Let's do it with taking humans out. But then let's put the humans into figuring out what's coming next. And I don't know what's coming next, but I feel like they probably do.
Yeah, I find Amazon, of course, to be fascinating, as anyone on earth does. But I find myself thinking recently, this week specifically, that organization is behaving like General Electric behaved in the 1980s. It did not work out well for General Electric in the long term. However, it feels like the way that the global economy is structured is different than then. And it also, we need to take into account that that Amazon is becoming the platform for the way that commerce in general operates.
And
So,
therefore, could we afford to lose it, right?
could we afford to lose it? Oh, absolutely not.
I think not.
Right. And so can they still keep doing, delivering you everything that you want to buy, being that retailer? Can they also be AWS, the underlying underbelly of everything? Can they also be the primary artificial intelligence provider? Can they also be, delivery service? Can they also be all of these things that they're putting their fingers on?
Well, I think with Amazon, we kind of know what they do, right? What they do impacts each of us on an individual level daily. GE perhaps didn't.
Well, they were every single light bulb in my house.
Yeah, but it didn't feel like I had a personal relationship with GE, although I should thank them. I think that's the difference. You know, if you said to me, wipe out Amazon today, I'd say, impossible.
Can't do it.
Except
Right.
someone else would come along. I mean, Seth, think of, we feel like the last 10 years have been huge. I have kids now in their early 20s, so I feel like in their lifetime, they started without mobiles, and now look where they are, right? So I feel like it's been enormous. And yet, this could just be the beginning of whatever's coming. I mean, that's the amazing thing about tomorrow compared to today. We cannot, here we are talking about, I think Amazon will do this and that. I'm impressed by maybe drones delivering something, although I really don't like the idea of the sky being full of them. But, this is simple stuff. This is still Legos. Where could we potentially go to? Our thoughts guide actions. I've seen online tests with robotics where definitely thoughts are, think about this, prosthetics I've seen somewhere where the thoughts and the nerves, and not being a medical doctor, I'm using all the wrong words, obviously, can guide the action of the muscles to move this limb. Huge, right? Huge. I thought Google Glasses was a great concept. It was weird and it didn't work, but huge. So where will this go? I don't know. And at some stage when we retire, I kind of fantasize about opting out of all of this. I'll go back to, not even today, Seth, I think I'll go back to yesterday when I don't need to be involved anymore, because I think what bliss.
Yeah, there you go. Go back to the land maybe farm a little bit, have a,
Well,
couple of chickens for the eggs, maybe, some
husband tells me
plants to eat.
hemp farming is all the rage at the moment. I'm trying to look up small farming, boutique, not boutique farm, small farming opportunities that might be a good fit for me.
That's
Eventually.
a different conversation for a different day, but one that I can certainly have with you. But for today, and
Yes,
regarding tomorrow, this is the first one. And I feel like we did okay. So, Barbara, thank you so much for your time.
I've had fun.
Absolutely. As always, I appreciated speaking with you. I can't wait for tomorrow.
Bye, Seth.